Good morning, Greg.
Good morning, David. How are you doing?
Good. It's weird because we've been talking for like an hour, but it's like the first time we've talked to each other again.
Well, live on screen.
I guess that's true. This is.
We were talking on Friday when we were pirating it up.
Oh yeah. Yar, me maiden.
Uh,
Oh, it's good times. Good
Good
times.
times. I almost burned our boat down.
Yeah. Don't put Greg
So
in charge of cannons. That was so funny. Um. Anyway, I'm gonna push the button and you can
oh,
do
ma-
the thing.
man, you're echoey again. Hello, I want to thank these wonderful people. They make things happen for our channel, except when we have technical difficulties the previous week.
I mean, even with the technical difficulties, they help the channel. It's just
Oh,
there's
100%.
more
So
technical difficulties. That's all.
yeah. It was strange. Like I couldn't hit join. Then when I did join, we couldn't hear each
Hmm.
other properly. It was
Yeah,
not going. Yeah, it was odd.
it
And
was
then this
not
this
happening.
morning, I did a reboot and things were working. And then what's weird is we got it working about a half an hour into when should have been streaming last week, and
Yeah,
I don't know. But oh well, at least it's working. I still think that music's a little loud,
can bring it down a bit.
but yeah, there we
Um,
go.
yeah, that should suffice. YouTube's giving a warning, guys, as it always does. The stream rate is lower than it should be, but my software says it's streaming at 3,000, and YouTube insists it's 2,500. So one of them is
Mm,
lying. I don't know. I don't
I
know.
don't know. I don't know. As
How are they
long as
gonna
you guys
How are they
can
gonna
hear us,
tell?
so that's the important thing.
Um. So
Our engaging banter.
yes, the banter of the engagement. So if you were the winners of the contest, we are going to get that information out to the Spool 3D this weekish,
Yes,
and you will get an email from
Derek.
Derek
Yeah.
at Spool there with gift card stuff. So just hang tough there, and congratulations again. But
Yes.
they're the checks in the mail, so to speak.
I like what you did there.
Right?
The
Morning,
gift card.
Dominic.
Hey, Dominic. Hopefully, you can hear both of us this morning.
I think you can.
I think so.
I unmuted the live stream like a responsible person to hear voices.
Well, that's good. That's
I hear
good.
voices in my head. Is that normal?
Only if it's my voice.
Yeah, it's only when you talk.
Okay, so
Okay.
then that's
Phew.
totally acceptable.
Love it. So YouTube, just FYI, everybody, YouTube's starting to run mid-roll streams automatically, and you can't really shut them off. So if you
It,
get
it doesn't
one,
have it doesn't happen in the live, but if you play it back later, it might do that, right?
yeah.
So
And the only thing I know how to fix it is getting like the premium thing, which isn't connected to us. So just be aware. Be aware. Um,
yeah.
so some existential topics to start with, and then maybe some non-existential topics. But let's get to philosophy. Let's get right down to
Alrighty.
it. Um, the first philosophical question. Right, it's
Right, and
usually
use a woman's voice in your head.
yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it kind of sounds
Named
like
Stacy.
well, hey, don't dox people. No, I'm just kidding. No, their name is Cortana. Remember? No, that's a dead
Okay.
project by Microsoft.
Oh,
um,
I'm sure it'll come back in an AI version.
well, probably they can't get rid
Cor-
of
they
Cortana.
just they renamed Cortana. Her name now is Copilot.
Sounds like a downgrade to me. So the first question of the day would be, how has 3D printing impacted like our lives? So like Greg and mine specifically. Um, like, has it changed anything for the better, or do we just have a bin full of junk?
We got, well, I would say I got to meet a whole bunch more people.
Yeah. I mean, there's the social impact of 3D
Right,
printing, right? Like,
right.
we
I mean,
get to
we
hang
we
out
just
with folk.
we just got to run a lovely new course,
Yeah,
and that was kind of interesting. Um, and maybe later on we can talk about the differences between the two printers we used, which
that's
I
very
thought
true.
was kind of interesting. So
Yeah,
we'll
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 have to
add that
chat that.
later.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know. I personally, it's filled a good uh, niche in my life because I really like using CAD software, and I have a reason to actually design stuff, and then actually I'm able to like create them relatively quickly, right? So that's cool. I really enjoy that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, has it? It's an interesting question, and I made it up too, right? Because, like, has it changed my life at all? Sure. Is it better or worse? Um, oh, Dominic says my volume's a bit lower. I'll fix it. I'm looking at the mixer. Hold on. Okay, is it too loud now? Let me know.
Uh,
I turn it up a bit.
well, I think it sounds okay on my end. It was kind of
Move your
echoey before,
Look,
and now,
this is where it
now
is.
it's
2 fingers. It's 2 fingers. Right? It's good. It just looks farther away. Perspective. um, so I mean, okay. So first off, has it impacted my life? Yes, my electrical bill is higher, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I mean, right? Like, it costs money and time to run these things. Like, when I have to spin up the whole farm, it takes that impact of, well, it's gonna be an hour to get all these things running, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. 3D printing, like Greg
keep,
said, also
keeps
lets
you out
you,
of trouble.
right, and and then it gives you the ability to iterate through a project or a problem quickly. So, like,
Mhm.
some broke at home. It's gonna be 4 week wait for the part to ship from LG or whatever it is. You can actually, like, you could do it now.
Yeah.
Like, just kind of mock up a part and print it in. Even if a turnaround time on a printer is like a day, usually you can beat shipping time, right?
Hmm.
So I mean, there's that standpoint. Like, yeah, does it change my life? Kind of. Um, have I printed anything that I couldn't buy at a hardware store or pre-made? Good morning, Pierre.
Hey, Pierre.
I don't think so. I think that most of the pieces and structural parts and that I could have probably sourced out from like a local hardware. But again, would it be the right thing?
Well, it might
Probably.
cost you a little more.
It cost me more, and then, like, it might be like I'm shoehorning this part in just because that's kind of, what I got. So, like, from a very high level view, yeah, sure, it's changed my life. But, like, impacted, yes. If you look at my garage, you can see the impact.
well, well, you don't park in your double car garage.
Yeah, no, we have it started with 3D printers, and now we've branched out to laser engravers, and pretty soon there's going to be more
I wish I had a
tools
heated
in there.
garage.
It does make a difference, especially when it was like -42. But I don't think we went out there. Pretty sure we didn't do any crafting that day. But oh,
Shocker.
oh, hey, Helge, welcome, welcome. Helge made it. So, like, from that standpoint, I would say, like, yeah, impacted. Uh, Now, I think another interesting question is how we as 3D printer, like, enthusiasts,
Hmm.
impact the environment or the world around us. So, like, what do you think about like, are we? This is a tricky question, and it's tricky to ask in a way that's not going to be like offensive, I guess. But like, do we
Impact
generate?
the world. Like, if you look at the world, it's not just the waste. I'm thinking, but if you impact the world, think of all the, you know, different technologies that benefit from 3D printing. Like, there's parts in manufacturing cars that now they're 3D printing for rare vehicles that you can't get a specific part anymore.
Yeah.
They've set up they've taken the original drawings, digitized them, and you can order a part from BMW or whoever, right?
Right. Yeah.
So there's and it'll come in metal,
Right.
right?
And
You
it
know,
comes like the one you need.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it's so and they're 3D printing rocket engines, right? They're
Well,
3D printing everything, like robotic arms for people who lost limbs and whatnot. They can now produce them. So I think it has had in my opinion, a positive impact on our world. Now,
for sure it has, but I mean, sorry.
and
Yeah.
houses, yeah. Ray says they're printing houses.
Houses. Yeah. Concrete. Just put a pin in that thought, Greg. Sorry. Remember where we were. Pierre asked, "Is rat rig booming right now?" And the answer is kind of yes. Um, they seem to be having a bit of resurgence. I noticed that
Yeah.
a week or so ago. Which they're great printers. I think they're up there in the forum projects too, but they're more like
Yeah.
you can build it, like kit it from them. So anyway, yeah, like so there's like you said, there's that intrinsic like step forward with the printers, because even we saw stuff like, I mean, we talked about it before, but that wrench that NASA sent to space so that they could like torque that one screw exactly the right amount to not suck everybody out into space. They printed that rat or that the wrench, right? So
Yeah.
like, I mean, there's examples of that, but I mean, on the flip side, in Canada and the US, there's a lot of talk every, shall we say, like, I don't know, once a year, twice a year. I think we hear about it. It reaches to the news level, but there's a lot of talk about
People being
being
stupid.
being stupid, and like we had one just outside of a town about an hour away that were
Yeah.
printing things that could eject projectiles. I'm trying not to get demonetized.
Right.
Eject
Right.
projectiles as fast as you can in
But
a
here's the
bang.
thing. I think that's the exception. I really do.
No,
Like
and
that's
I agree. It's just
right.
like there's when you think about like all the good that it can do, which frankly it is quite a
I
bit.
mean, you look in the medical industry, like or the medical system.
Mm.
They can use it
I
to
mean, it's an industry. You got it right.
right, but they can use it to take an MRI or a CT scan, right,
Hmm.
and then print, like, let's say, the broken bone and figure out the best way to fix it, right,
Yeah,
and
for
and stuff.
sure.
So I think that I don't know. I lean to the positive side of things
A
myself.
100%. And like, I think there's more of a silver lining in 3D printing than there is that dark
Yeah.
line. I mean, of course,
I know Pierre uses some 3D printers at his work. He's in medical. I'm not sure how they use them. Pierre,
that's
maybe you
that's a
could
trade secret.
shed some light
And I
on
mean,
what you would use them for yourself.
we've all seen the 3D printer sitting on the. There's that picture where it was sitting on the desk at NASA. I think it was an Ender 3 too. Everybody's like, "Wow, look, NASA has an Ender 3 sitting on
Yeah.
the shelf."
Oh,
And
I'm sure they. I'm oh God. I'm sure most people at NASA have some sort of 3D printer, CNC. They probably have a whole workshop.
I mean, and they do obviously because it's NASA. Like
And
it's
they
not.
probably can print Altum.
Yeah, that was a that's a that's a good discussion in itself. The um and like Greg mentioned, like there's been innovative things in that field, like when even you think about like in the medical
So
field, dentistry and that kind of stuff,
yeah,
right? It's
Pierre responded. So Pierre says it's exactly what you said. Doctors use MRI to see better the heart and how they would produce the surgery and whatnot. So yeah, I do 3D print old parts that the company does not produce anymore. Yeah,
yeah,
so
yeah,
that's the thing, right? There's there's oftentimes
obsolescence, yeah.
you've got maybe a specialty device that's worth like $50,000 or something,
Hmm.
and one little latch or something is broken, and they don't make it anymore. I
Yeah.
mean, you either have to scavenge one, find another broken one that part isn't broken, or
Hmm.
you'll have to print a replacement. So
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of for everything that's wasteful about 3D printing, I can think of a small part print that I recently designed that would argue I can keep a $500 object out of the landfill
right, and
with
that's
right. So it's
and that's
good.
the thing, right? Like I my one of my first practical prints was I printed a uh, little brace
Hmm.
that I could run three or a couple wires through that goes on a lazy Susan, so the stuff doesn't fall off and fall out the back when you spin it.
Hmm.
You know, because the lazy Susan I had was from the 70s, right? And all the new ones have a little fence around them.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I'm going to make my own fence.
Yep.
And it's worked great. It was just PLA, it wasn't anything fancy. Um, and it's been working rock solid. So that was one of the first. I guess that was my second practical print, because the first one I fixed my fridge. That was my first print. I
Yeah.
designed something, and it was probably one of the poorest designs because I think I used 3D Builder. It was before I was using Fusion.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I I think like
I'm
the
much better
piece.
in Fusion now.
Yeah, right. Piece I'm thinking of is like literally, it's like 4 millimeters by 2 millimeters, and it goes in a really expensive gaming controller that has a really cheap and easy problem to fix.
Well,
Um,
unless you crazy
yeah,
glue a
that wasn't
switch.
us. That wasn't us. The crazy glue was applied in a crazy fashion, but it was fine. But um, like those kind of things are what kind of innovate in the field, right?
Yeah,
It it directly affects not only us because it means that I can use like say a controller for gaming again, but
yeah,
it keeps that from becoming e-waste and just sitting somewhere in a landfill. So like there's that
yeah.
impact on the globe,
I'm
and
I'm I'm looking forward to um, trying out this new printer we've ordered at work, to print just for me, because I don't have a setup where I can do ABS, at home, like just because of off gassing and whatnot. I don't have anything with proper filters or anything in it. So
mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to that, because there's a few things for car related and whatnot that would be nice to be able to print and know that it's not going to go overtime.
Right, droop droopy droop fail. Um,
you know so
which is
it'll be interesting to see. And then full disclosure, we ordered a at work a bamboo, but it's the high temp one with it's got the HEPA filter and the heated chamber and whatnot. So it's on pre-order.
yeah.
So hopefully it'll come in soon.
Dominic says that he's made custom racks and cases for music gear, like synthesizer modules and effects pedals, and
Right?
it's a great use, right? And like one that I do all the time too, along that vein, like inside of like a pedal box or a board would be like for us, lots of board game inserts, right? To make
Oh, that's true. And or dice towers you've done.
yeah, and so I mean those are
Yeah.
always neat,
Yeah.
and
I've I've
useful.
I've I've printed lots of little brackets. Like I have a couple wall brackets I made for, like, for example, I have this articulating light slash magnifier. Oh well, it was missing its mount, so I printed one of those.
Hmm.
And then I've got an arm that I can print extensions to up just up here
Yep.
that I have a camera on, and so there's.
Hmm.
I don't find it as practical for printing drawers. It seems like that's a little bit of a waste when you can get, like storage systems like this
Hmm. Yeah,
for relatively inexpensive.
I
So
agree, and then like, and that's a hard, like everything doesn't have to be 3D printed once you get a 3D printer.
I mean,
Um,
it's like the old saying, you know, when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
mhm. And like you could, and frankly, you could 3D print everything, but like we
Oh,
said,
you
like
can.
it's not going
There
to be economical at one point, or there's
and
already a better.
definitely when you first get your printer, print a bunch. Learn, that's the best way to learn, right? Like you've got to really wrap your head around, what's involved and whatnot. So yeah.
Yeah, it's an ever changing and growing experience too, because like when we first started, our CAD skills weren't that sharp. Like I know we had used CAD, but now we can use CAD, right? Like it's
Right.
we design parts and we have workflows. Uh,
Dominic says that Void Labs
yeah,
makes cool storage solutions. I'll have to look at them. I haven't seen any of their stuff, so
never heard of them,
yeah,
but
we'll
um,
take a look. Um, Maybe switching topics a bit. So we just ran a workshop for some more teachers.
a lot.
Um,
You're switching topics a lot, to be clear.
yes, but I think we've talked about how it impact the world. Like now, I mean, it's still on topic, and we're impacting,
People,
teachers that
yeah,
are impacting students. So, but
choose.
what I want to talk about is we were short a couple printers
Yes.
because there was more people in our course than we expected, because we had got a proper communication. So we had to quickly order some printers, and they were out of the Neo 2s, which we had been ordering. So we ordered an Ender 3 V3.
Hmm.
And
Interesting thing.
and so I just wanted to talk a little bit about the evolution of the Ender, because we had the Ender 3 V2 Neo, which was for the most part fairly traditional Ender 3, right? It had, your aluminum uprights, but they had changed them to a flat front surface.
Yep.
But other than that, it had BL Touch, or I guess CR Touch technically.
Yeah.
Um, and it had the flexible spring steel sheet. So like it was still it still had the aluminum
Hmm.
base and whatnot. So
There was
with
still
the
that.
plastic
Uh,
drawers
yeah, i3s that you'd
and
expect.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So when we opened up the Ender 3v3, it was a little surprising at how different the construction was.
Yeah,
Did
we
you want
had.
to just
Yeah,
describe it a bit, or
sure. So first thing, like I wasn't expecting it, but like you could tell it was different from the box too that I shipped in. It was
smaller?
yeah, it was 3/4 the size of maybe like the other box, but you open it up and everything is like ABS extrusion. There was no actual, um, there's no more like aluminum uprights or
Well,
or
the uprights were aluminum,
yeah, the uprights were, but like the
right? But
base was
they weren't
molded ABS.
the 20 they weren't 2040 or whatever the
Zach
normal,
Freeman's White Labs.
right?
Okay, we'll check it out.
The-
Yeah, and
yeah,
so
they were a custom. It was almost a
it's
V shaped.
it's a lot lighter for one, and it
Oh
was
yeah.
the frame was actually surprisingly rigid on the bottom. Then that part was all extrusion plastics,
Yeah, it was all like, I
and
don't know, nylon ABS or something. Like it was a
yeah,
big base.
the
But
bed rides on
yeah,
smooth rod instead of
right.
VVL,
That's a throwback, right?
and then it had was dual lead. That's the other thing it had. It
Well,
had
it was,
one stepper motor, but it
yeah,
had the belt on the top for dual lead screws, and we talked about that before. That's kind of like on a printer that small. Usually, you don't suffer from the droop,
that's that.
but
You
it's
can
there.
if you assemble it wrong, but you don't have to assemble that part. The other thing was, um, the X carriage still rode on the standard, you know, aluminum extrusion, but
Hmm.
that extrusion was connected to plastic parts. Everything
Hmm.
was plastic. Like the only thing that was aluminum was your uprights and your extrusion, and then your metal smooth rods. Like
Yeah,
everything else, everything, the cross member at the top was plastic. Everything else was plastic. And
the
it didn't have wheels to adjust the bed level.
no, it was just that's the bed level. The one thing too, the other it wasn't a complaint, it was a joke, but like at the when we were setting up the Neo 2s with the CR Touch, the install of those is like 6 screws, 2 for the spool holder and 4 in the bottom, and the
Yeah.
complaint was these were more screws. They got lied to. The setup on them actually though was just as easy.
It was super easy. There were
The
smaller screws.
They were smaller. The biggest difference now with that printer, and this will have the biggest impact for them moving forward, and possibly if you guys try the Ender 3 V3, for you too. But the biggest difference is when you use the auto level setup feature on the V3. It not only like runs the quick bed mapping and stuff, but it sets the probe offset and does everything for you. There's
It was shocking. Like I would say that because I think we had 4 people using those,
mhm.
maybe three or 4.
Well, we had one guy come in like late after everything, and he pushed a button and caught up.
Yeah,
Like it was.
it was less fiddly because everyone, you know, we had to show them how to level the V2s and go around,
Mhm.
and the V3 way quicker to from start to print.
Yeah.
Right. Like
Not knocking the old Ender, like the Ender 3 frame from the past that has carried forward until the V3 is great, but I think that we saw actual good iteration with cost savings for the company that
oh
actually
man, they
makes
probably
sense.
I would say with all the aluminum they took out of that thing, um, they've saved a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
Now, was that one direct drive? I can't remember if
Yep.
that was Bowden.
No, that one came with
And
the
that one
Sprite.
also had a Sprite.
Yeah.
So it was also direct drive,
And
and the
it's like
cost was the
$100 cheaper.
same. Nah,
No, no. For
maybe like
us, for us it's the
30,
same, but for the
it
normal
was
person,
it was
it's
it was about maybe $30 difference than what we originally paid for the other
yeah,
one,
like
and
what
it
we
wasn't
paid.
significant.
I'm
And
gonna
so,
find them. I'm curious.
but with all the reduction and whatnot, like there's the V wheels, for example, are all kind of almost captured
Yeah,
on the sides. Like you don't have your typical 2 wheels with a single wheel and the eccentric nut.
yep.
Like there's no way to that I could see to adjust
So
eccentric nut.
it
Like
looks like
they've really
MSRP is about $100. So it's
what?
100. MSRP is $100 cheaper for the Ender 3v3.
Yeah. So I mean, they've definitely can pump those babies out like crazy, and so far,
So
my
good, yeah.
impressions are pretty positive.
Yep. I think like so the V wheel thing we have. Well, that's kind of a yet to come. Like once you set them up, generally you have to like once a year look at your printer, check the V wheels because of the wear or maybe
Yeah.
the nut moves, right? That kind of thing. And so that's kind of weird to me that it's all enclosed. But hey, we'll find out. But
Yeah.
like
We we
the
did we did open the bottom just to have a look. Um,
mhm,
in the office because we were just curious. So it has a completely different board in it. It's got a large SD card, um, and it looks like the 2208s or whatever's on it
yeah.
are in you must be in UART because there's no pot to adjust the steppers at all. Like on the normal version 4 boards. So that was interesting. And then all the wiring was really nice and solid inside. There was
Mhm.
nothing weird looking.
Well, in the
Like
way that
I think
they
they've
enclose it
iterated,
is
like
way
you said.
better,
Oh yeah,
right?
like
Yeah.
and then underneath when you pull the bottom off, um, all the parts where like your uprights connect to and whatnot are reinforced with some metal.
Yeah.
I would say it probably takes them half or more than half less or like they save half the time they used to or more um
Mhm.
manufacturing that one
Well, and
just
that
for assembly alone.
right, and that comes down and that ease of assembly for them passes on to us, which is great. And time will
I bet you
tell, but I
they
think
could
it's
that could be automated, like
oh
whereas
probably
the old one, you know, someone's manually putting in all those screws and adjusting the uprights and
yeah.
everything, like but this new one, I bet you they have assembly line and the parts just drop in and
Hmm.
robots screw it down and whatnot because the way it all
Well, and the
goes
plastic
together.
molding has gnarlings for every screw in it as well, so they're not
Yep.
just trusting like the plastic to hold forever,
Yeah.
which it wouldn't, right? So,
Yeah.
like, is it great? Um, I was kind of
It's
ambivalent at first, right? Because I'm
yeah.
like, man, what are they doing? Cheaping out, and then once it all gets together and starts printing, you're like, well, these just worked out of the box.
Yeah.
We both know the sprite extruder is a great
Yeah.
extruder,
And so
right? So good
I think
features.
when I think about where they're going in our case, they're going to schools, right? They're going into a classroom where people will use them um, a
Yep.
few times a year for specific projects. Some of them will use them more. So the least finicky they can be, the better. So I think if we do another course, I would definitely order the V3 for the next course for sure.
Well, and I mean, really, this is for sure pick it, right? But I don't think there's an option. It looks like they're getting cleared out of the other stuff, and then this will be the takeover, which isn't a bad thing right now, um, at all. I liked all the features that I saw in it. So
Yeah.
I think this is the first time an Ender's come out that you could say like that it's an actual iterative step in a direction. Because before,
Yeah.
well, great, because Creality's king of like, oh, the community's printing little storage drawers to go under their
So
Ender. Let's
someone
add
put a lot
that.
of thought and design behind that
Yeah.
because even the amount of aluminum they're using for the upright extrusions,
Hmm.
they've reduced that by probably 50%,
Yeah. So like, there's
right?
actual engineering that's went into this
Hmm.
thing to
So yeah, they
bring
may
it to
have to
market.
order a whole bunch of this custom extrusion, but the cost has to be way down,
So you can
and
look at
it's solid.
It is. And you can look at all those videos finally that says, "Oh, a new Ender 3." There actually is a new Ender 3, and it's this one. And um, you should get it if you want an Ender 3.
Yep.
That's where you should stop with it. So
Yeah.
I and again, like it makes a big impact when you have a room of 40 people or 30 people. I think there's 27 in this one or so,
Well, yeah,
25 or
including us.
something.
Including us.
But
Yeah,
like putting together printers, and you have to get everybody like printing and working at the same time. There's a lot of care and details that go on our side. But when we get products like this that pleasantly surprise us, it makes it
oh man,
a lot easier.
we
And
probably could have had them all printing sooner and then gone a little more in depth on the slicing and
yeah,
and whatnot. So
and so that's how it
yeah,
affects us moving forward, right? It will allow us um, to give a more in depth, add more information that we can give them on the first sessions.
yeah.
Anyway, so
I wasn't expecting that when I pulled it. I just thought, oh, Ender 3v3. I didn't even look at it. It was just the closest priced one that was available at the time to order,
yeah, it was
and
just like, let's do
they had
this.
decent stock of. So it's like, okay,
Yeah,
we'll see.
I mean, and again, like this is the first few that we've opened, so maybe we're completely wrong, and it's gonna be a bomb. But I don't know if anybody has used them yet. If there's
But
any
first
experience, but
impressions were very positive. So
yeah. We're about just over half, so I'm gonna push the button, and Greg, you do the thing.
all right. Well, we want to thank these lovely people who help support us, and uh, even though some of them we haven't seen in a while on the list, we hope they're doing well. Stig, if you're out there, hopefully you're doing well. But yeah, thanks everyone. Without you guys, we can't do a lot of the wonderful things we do on our channel. And we'll have more stuff coming up. But if you want to join us, we will do probably next week a live Patreon live stream where you can actually join us and be able to actually chat with everyone on the stream. So yeah, actually, I don't know if it'll be next week because I think I'll be in Calgary for a robotics competition. So I just remembered.
Well, you are not in the competition.
I'm driving the participants.
They both have cars now. What comes next after Core XY? So here's the funny thing, Dominic. Core XY is actually a circle back to, because it already happened once, and then everybody hated it, and then they moved to bed slingers, and then we're circling back now to Core XY, and
And
like,
I think bed slingers for a first printer, because of cost wise and whatnot, there's nothing wrong with that, right? Core XY is once you've had a printer for a while, I feel you want the more performance. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
well, before I was just saying the like the evolution is swinging around, and honestly they both work fine. There's a key difference, and I'll use two printers for this key difference. One is the Voron Mini, and one is, let's call it, the Bamboo Lab A1 Mini. So the footprint for a bed slinger is actually a lot smaller than a Core XY, in some respects. In some,
Depends.
because
It
the bed
depends. It
has to go
depends.
back and forth, right? And
Yeah,
so
it
you
depends.
do lose
It depends
that.
on but
But
you're
I
right.
picked two printers of similar size on purpose. The build volumes are very, very close. And then if you look at the Voron Mini, since it's the Core XY frame, it can print incredibly fast. Like we had it with the SX4s at work when we printed with that tuned profile. It's printing at about 150 millimeters a second, and it could print faster if we had some linear rails and stuff like that on it. But Core XY in itself, it's kind of looped around, and like when I think about like the differences, and like Greg said, most bed slingers now have compensated for ringing, right? And that's not because they tried to, it's because the trinamic drivers have come out and they can actually drive the printer better to get rid of
Yeah.
the artifacts and stuff. And
Yeah.
lots
And
of
they're
modern
quieter.
slicers, quieter. Modern slicers account for kind of like the acceleration and jerk issue we had in like 2016-ish, right? So then you have that stuff. Core XY is great, and it's not much different. And this is the important thing. It's not much different to maintain than like a bed slinger. The difference is the belt. The belt that drives the
Yeah.
Core XY motion system. If you can learn that, there's no reason like maintenance can't be as easy on that as it is on a bed
That's true.
slinger. And
Yeah, because you
like,
got your AB
right?
motors versus your XY motors,
Yeah.
right?
And
But
it's not bad.
Delta's the same way, right? Delta is just different,
There
right?
is a reason we don't see Delta so much anymore, and that's because people figured out that it's not as accurate. Just by nature.
Well, yeah, and it's even though it can be quick and whatnot, they do take up way more vertical space
Yeah.
than you can actually print in.
And I think
So
the Delta, the last one that I can remember was that FL Sun Speed or whatever they called it, or Racer or something. Like Eddie Cubic Predator. If you go back on the channel, we review that. Can't buy that no more, right?
that's true.
The belts, and so speaking from 100% experience, the belts on a Core XY are pretty easy to set up. The trick is the tension on the belt because that could throw off all sorts of alignment.
Yeah,
So if
you
you
want it to be very consistent.
and
Otherwise,
but what's next? I think is a good question. So what's coming for 3D printing? Well, I think we're already seeing it, and companies are. And again, this is a circle back to something that was before, but we could see companies really trying to push systems like the AMS and multiple material systems to get through the printer. And I think we're going to see this year finally somebody figure out how to do the wiping on the
I want
inside.
a replicator, David,
Like
like from Star Trek.
oh, though, I'm like, you want to, I thought you were talking MakerBot. I'm like, I'll be over. You must be
Oh
sick.
no! Oh,
Um,
I want to say Earl Grey hot,
yeah.
and then
Tea, Earl Grey, hot.
and then it like away it goes.
We're not
all
there
day.
yet, unfortunately. And we did. So the other revolution we saw along the way is resin printing, and like it's the printers themselves have got better and along. But when we look at what's coming next, I truly think it's like going to be more compatible materials at home. And Greg and I were talking before the stream about like, and he mentioned the X1E. That's an enterprise from Bamboo Labs, but there's also companies like the one Creality has the Surmoon. We talk about that one. IDEX, High Temp, right? I think that's the next thing that's really going to come and hit home printing. And yes, you're 100% right, Helge. Resin is too much mess. I have a resin printer. It's printed 3 things, and that's it. I
Well,
have
and
opened it since.
and I think simplification. Like you look at what they did with the iteration on the Ender 3, right? It's that brings a new audience that doesn't have to tinker to be able to 3D print, because not everyone has the ability to troubleshoot and tinker and or the patience for some of that. So
yeah, and I mean, I'll just mention there's a few comments that are popping up here. We'll mention them. So Dominic mentioned the 3D Chameleon 4, and this is actually something we've looked at before. It's just the 4th iteration of the Chameleon. It's a multi-material system, very similar to like an AMS that can take 4 in. It's great. And I hope that we figure out how to more efficiently change colors, and then it would be even better. Or filaments. And then Helge does say resin's too much mess and it stinks. And yes, we've gassed ourselves
Well,
out of
I
places
mean,
before.
you look at where we came from for just regular printing, like paper
Hmm?
printing, right? We went from, typewriters, which took forever, to
Not
dot
printing.
matrix printing,
That's
right?
printing.
Which you know was loud and obnoxious and slow and whatnot,
I
to
love that thing.
to to laser printing, which was faster, then to inkjet, which was color but not as fast, to now
Yeah.
inkjet printing that's as fast as laser, right?
It's
Just
interesting.
it's just
And
amazing how the evolution happened. So I think we're still on the cusp. 3D printing is still relatively new, for consumer.
I was going to say
I mean,
30-year-old technology
it's
isn't new.
but patents, right? Like there's lots of stuff that people can't do due to patents, and
You said
slowly
doo doo.
slowly they're uh you know uh either new innovations coming or patents are expiring that are allowing people to iterate on that
Right.
previous patented design to
N-
make it more modern and whatnot.
So there are a lot of, and this kind of will make you sad, maybe, and in general us sad. There's a lot of innovation that's already happened in lots of the higher end material printing. So like
Mhm.
SLS and sintering and all that stuff is getting better. It's just not safe at home.
Oh,
So
yeah,
there's
you don't
there.
want to breathe in like I don't know, like titanium powder.
I'm fine with it.
I'm thinking that would be bad for your lungs.
Probably, but like there is lots of evolution and revolution in that field right now, that can bring faster. Like speed was a big thing, and so the sintering's getting faster. The materials are getting more efficient. The forges can actually anneal and solidify the parts better because of the engineering going
Well,
into the material. And like we've
we're
had
even
engineering,
casting, for example, casting technologies. They were stagnant for a long time, but now we're casting whole frames of cars,
yeah,
right? Right, in relatively lightweight but super strong. So like this, it's amazing. You can get a 9,000 ton casting machine now to do a body of a car, right?
so
Which we
health.
couldn't do that stuff before.
No, House has the point to make that like, and I agree with you 100%. Like the printing, normal printing has nothing to do with 3D printing. 3D printing is a tool, right? And normal printing is a pain in our butt every day. So like the two technologies are diverse or divergent, I should say. The Dominic says four color resin jet printing for color prints, question mark. So
That would
HP
be
already
really
has
cool.
this product out there, and they
It's
have for
just
a long
expensive.
time. And that's again where and then I think I want to say the Da Vinci's the other company that's played with ink injection into color prints. And I don't disagree. The thing is, and this, like in a resin, it can be done more easily than in a filament, because in a filament that color has to get added after it's molten, but just in time to print. so
Whereas, yeah,
so like you have that like, whereas like if you do the resin, you can actually like inject it. um
and then harden it instantly with
yeah,
UV light.
and then the next layer comes. So like it's math, right? But it would work. But and I agree with Helge, and Greg and I were actually talking before stream about this, about some different materials like peak and altum and nylon, which are all plastics of different varieties. But like plastic is only the first step, and I'm hoping we see more materials eventually become available to us. But
Yeah.
again, like those
Well, and
often require industrial process to
and
actually
and
print them.
and hell just saying materials, that we can someday print. Well,
Yeah.
they take everything from powder. Like, if you convert your material, whether it's titanium, gold, whatever, to a tiny, tiny molecule of itself, then it's much easier to melt it to itself and make, and that's how they do the thin. That's how they do the rocket engines, right? They will do titanium, or they'll do. Um, I can't remember the other material that the rocket engine on the space shuttle was made of, but
No
it's
idea.
super heat resistant. But now they can put channels in it and whatnot, because they just lay out the powder, the laser melts it, and then in the end they just start clearing away the powder and blowing out all the channels, and you've got like something that you can never forge, right? You can print an object that could never be cast, forged, or CNC'd, because you couldn't put these thin channels into the object, otherwise, like any other way.
Mm.
Like it's actually fascinating, like that they can now do that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, just think, 10 years from now, where are we going to be, right?
That's what the question was. Offset. Dominic has. I have offset printing in my background. Uh, I have offset printing in my background. I keep wondering about using offset technique in 3D printing. What do you mean by offset? Sorry.
Yeah.
Looking forward to when it's a desktop version, and that. So
Right.
again, and I talked to. That's kind of where I started with. All of this stuff exists in industry. It's very hard to bring it to the home,
Yeah.
because we have seen like MakerForge does have um, a metal 3D printer that
Hmm.
prints a metal filament. It's not metal filled, it's a metal filament
it,
that has
it's
binders in it to
yeah,
keep the metal together. And then
it's
after that,
basically
it gets out
wax.
and it goes in once your print is done, after you have to get rid of all that binding material. And
Yeah.
so you put it in the oven and bake it, and then that gets rid of the binder, and the
Well, no,
part's incredibly strong.
you
But
you
the
soak you
problem
soak
is,
you soak it. You soak it in the bath to get rid of the binder,
it depends on which filament it is.
because
But
the
once
one
you get rid of the
yeah.
binder before the annealing or after, depending on the binder, that part is super weak. Super weak. When it comes off the
Until you
printer, you
center it.
have to sinter it. And so, like that,
Yeah.
and then, like, because the one we saw, it had like the printing thing, and then it had the bath thing, and then it had the sintering thing. And like the printer itself was like, what, $100,000, and that was
Yep.
used. And
Yep.
then like the bath station was cheaper, like it was under 20,000, I think.
Yeah,
But
and
then
he
the
was
annealer was a little more.
and they had to weigh it. So like they print it, and then they put it in the bath, but then they have to keep weighing it, because you want to make sure that all of the binder is gone and you only have the weight of the material left, because if you don't and you sinter it, it won't be strong, because the it has it
Mm,
basically the sintering process will cause the binder, which is basically wax at that point,
yeah.
to expand and damage your part as
It's
it's being sintered.
it's an interesting process, because he had that one, and then he had the powder one, and they had different binders and stuff in them.
Yeah.
I think like but again, all of that's industrial because of the processing, and
Oh
like
yeah, big
the
time.
power consumption. All of them are running off of bigger circuits than your normal house
Well,
stuff.
he had to bring in special gases that were
Mm,
beyond, like, they weren't your typical welding type gases. I
I
can't
think
remember
they're
what they were.
argon and something.
I can't remember
One
what they
was
were, but
inert, and then one was not
yeah,
inert. But
yeah,
they
and
were like
it
each
was
tube
quite
he
the
said
part.
was like a grand. You're like, oh,
Oh
okay. How long
man,
does that last? He's like, 3 prints. I'm like, oh. Um, but like, and again, he's doing stuff for industry. Helge brings up an interesting point too. He says concrete pumps too, and
yep.
I'll take it one further. Anything that you can squish stuff out of, it can be made to like 3D additive manufacture, like
Oh,
even a glue gun,
100%.
right? But I still I'm not sure. Dominic hasn't typed back what offsetting it is, so Maybe he's typing. I'm not sure. Held says 3D printing can already be used in a big industrial, so make it smaller for a home garage. Um, yeah, I agree, but like
But that's the patent thing, right?
that
Like
there is
it's
some of those like MakerForge does hold some of that information behind that, and then like um patents, like Greg said. But then like the other thing too is how good's the power to your house? In Alberta, the power to the house
yeah,
is fine until everybody decides to use it at the same time because they're
to
cold in the
heat their
winter,
house. Yeah.
or
Well, I
and
mean,
charge their cars
I
or
know
whatever it
a
is.
guy who lives out in acreage. He had to put in some special transformers in his garage because he needed three-phase power
Yeah,
and he only had two-phase coming in, so he had to basically convert the two-phase to three-phase through a series of transformers just to run his large CNC mill,
yeah,
right? So it's like, yeah, you do need
yeah. Three
you do
phase.
need
Yeah.
some extra stuff.
So I like it's not impossible to get all of the requirements to your home to run these printers, but I don't think you'll ever, at least in the next 5 years, you won't find like a Maker Forge quality metal printer of that nature that's sub 100,000 because the people that are buying them, and we saw that with the X1E when it came out. As soon as you put enterprise or industry behind a product, the price always goes up,
Right.
and it stays there.
Yeah.
And the reason that the FDM printers, I think, have come more readily available to us is because they realize they're not engineering grade, and like they can be a tinker project, not like a metal printer, but
And you'd think you'd want to get 3D printing out there and whatnot to have expose more people to it, so that you have more people that you can use in the on the industrial side of the 3D printing, because now
mhm.
you have some people that maybe even want to go into it as a career, right?
Yeah,
In that type of engineering or manufacturing. So
yeah.
yeah,
But I agree with Helge, and I'm hopeful it comes. But
yeah,
I've seen like over the last I've watched several years of 3D printing nerd videos, and there's always like metal 3D printing at home, and then it's like a PCB wave kind of thing where it's like you
yeah,
send them their model and then they send you the print back,
yeah,
which again isn't the worst way to do it, especially if you're only doing a few parts. Because,
yeah,
like Greg said, you can prototype your plastic at home. This
yeah,
part is right. I just need it in metal. Send it to
yeah.
PCB way. It comes back.
Or
Well, go.
whoever,
Yeah.
yeah.
Not sponsored by any of these people, but
And
um,
Helge was saying, I mean, a lot of other countries have different voltage, right? They've got three phase in Europe. We have single phase that we split. We do split single phase in North America, so which is a 120 volt. And if you use a full phase, it's 240.
240.
But
Yeah.
and we do have the industrial three phase, but it's rare. It's mostly going into huge buildings and whatnot.
Yeah.
So residential is a little bit underpowered in North America, shall we say?
Which is it's a good thing because like the power grids, especially by us, are far lacking any sort of sustainability for more power.
Yeah,
We need more power to be able to support some of that stuff. If we bought metal 3D printers, Greg and I could take down Alberta. The
woohoo!
whole thing. No, I'm just kidding.
We can
But
print a new Alberta. Yeah.
friends, we're coming to the top of the hour. So I'm going to say a few things that we always say. Remember to share, like, and subscribe if you like us. That's great. You can find all of our information on www.3dmakeit.ca. And also, if you want to join the Patreon, you get access to the Discord, the Patreon live streams, and that kind of stuff. You get access to Greg and I for help. And that is, you can get that at patreon.com/3dmakeit.
Yeah, and we will be starting up our other series that we kind of ended before Christmas. Once things calm down, it's been a busy January.
I don't want to talk about January. So next week's the Patreon stream. Greg
I
may or may not be
I
here,
may not
but
be here, but if I can, I might. So I will be in Cal. There's a robotics competition in Calgary. So if anyone's going to the Vex competition
Ray
and
told
sees
you
me
to
there,
visit him.
you can come see me. I might stop by and visit Ray. But anyway, if I don't see you next weekend on the Patreon live stream, which I might join via phone, we'll see.
Mm-hmm. But until next time, thank you, everybody. And you take
Bye.
care of yourselves.